What's up, you all? If you not tuning in for Mic'd Up Team Recap, you making a giant mistake. As we are going over the New York Giants today with my boy Mike Prevo. How you doing?
Dude, you are just a master at these intros, man. It's a giant mistake because we're doing the New York Giants. Wow, that is great. I'm doing good. Are you doing all right, Mike?
I'm doing great, as always.
As always. So to get things started off, we got the draft class, Mike. What did you think of the draft?
Yeah, a lot of people are calling them one of the big winners of the draft. I don't see it. I don't have a lot of thoughts. I think they they probably missed out on two or three of the top tackles to pick maybe the one of their choice. And I think when you're picking that early to maybe stretch for your need for your team, I didn't understand the pick. I thought Willis, Wirfs were definitely better options there available at four. Also, if tackle was your need, you kind of had that on the board. How you could not create a value for that pick for a team looking for a quarterback, especially showing that there was a market for quarterbacks, as the next two of the next three picks were Tua and Herbert. I think that's a bummer, especially for a team that could use some extra picks, some extra talent across the board. So what are your thoughts on the draft a little bit, Mike?
I uh, I like Andrew Thomas as a player. I think he has a lot of potential. He has some flaws in his technique that I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, I could go into those if you want me to. I don't like the way a lot of times when he's punching on his pass pro, instead of like shooting from the chest, he kind of like wraps around and like tries to get his hands on the shoulder pads. And at least like where I go to school at Hillsdale College, I don't know if we've shared that on the channel yet. My football coach always teaches us to like cup the bubble when we're in pass pro to keep your hands tight, because if you expand your hands like this, you're just giving up your chest, and you can any good defensive end is just going to take you right into the quarterback. So because you're susceptible to bull rushes if you're not getting hands on first. So I think that you can clean that up though. The problem is that a guy like Wills, he doesn't need to clean that up. He's already rock solid in pass pro. So I like Thomas, but I don't really like him at four. And to me, the draft is all about matching the talent and their value. And I just don't know if this is the right value. I think he definitely is a first round tackle. He's he was actually probably my second favorite tackle on the board, I would say, after Wills. But to me, you could definitely have got him in that back half of the top 10. You didn't need to spend the fourth pick on him. And then in terms of McKinney, everybody thinks that he's the best safety in the draft, and I didn't really see it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, he's kind of the prototypical strong safety to me, in the box, um, kind of filling gaps, hard hitting, not great in space necessarily, not the best cover guy. He's super over aggressive sometimes, and teams can kind of beat him on that. But maybe he'll work with Jabril Peppers. I'm not really sure. I think they're kind of almost too similar for the Giants, but they did address a hole, and he is a big upgrade over, I believe it was Antoine Bethea last season. So it is an upgrade. I think I might have rather than went like Grant Delpit there, maybe just in terms of fit. But I mean that was kind of what I was thinking after really day one and two. So do you
Yeah,
want
do
to
you
get
have any thoughts on any of the later picks, or does it really stop at McKinney? Because for me, it really stops there. They got rotational depth at best.
the thing is, like, I don't really understand the Matt Pert pick, just in terms of need, because now you have Andrew Thomas and you have Nate Solder for the next 2 years. So we're looking at a guy who reasonably won't contribute for at least 3 years, and that's a third round pick. That's a prime spot. You can get starters in the third round, especially this year. You could have. Then anything really after that, I don't think many of these guys are going to contribute. I haven't watched a bunch of them, and I've seen a little bit of like Tay Crowder, T.J. Brunson, but nothing. I don't really understand why they took four linebackers. We'll touch on it because it's definitely a need, but I don't think they filled the need. So I mean, other than that, there really wasn't. I really didn't think they did much damage in day three. Where it was like the Cowboys, for example, in their division, we saw them constantly hitting on value. I don't really think they got great value, and I really don't think they addressed very many needs necessarily.
I'd agree.
You wanna hop into the offensive depth chart?
Let's get it.
Let's go. So first things first, you'll notice not much has changed. Not much has changed. Really, the right side of that offensive line has changed. But what I want to kind of ask you, Mike, is do you think that that is enough? Do you think that now, because we saw this offense struggle last year. I know Daniel Jones threw, I believe it was 17 interceptions, so he was definitely shoddy, but he was a rookie, and they had some injuries across the receiving core. So do you think now that they're healthy and now they have kind of overturned that right side of the offensive line, that they're going to be in for a much better season this year, or no?
Much better? I'm not sure I'd say that. Their division has a rough schedule. They have two very good teams in the division, as we mentioned before. I think there's a glaring hole on this team, and it shows right here. They really don't have a wide receiver one, and in the modern NFL, when pass is king, they don't really have that weapon they can rely on. Yes, Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, they're good pieces. They'd be good, wide receiver two kind of is that 1-2 duo, but neither of them can take the top off a defense. Neither of them can really take a game over themselves, and I think that's a huge hole here. Obviously, I think Barkley helps a little bit with that, obviously with his ability in the passing game, but I just don't see that potential in a big game. Could they have a wide receiver that's going to take the game over? And I don't see it.
No, and one thing that I always kind of like to think of is that you want your wide receiver room to be like the starting lineup of a basketball team. You want a bunch of different guys with different skill sets. You want your point guard who's good at passing. You want your center who's big, tall, and can protect the rim and stuff like that. And in their case, they only have kind of guys who do the same stuff, who work that kind of short intermediate area of the field, and that plays to Daniel Jones' strengths. But they really don't have a guy who can take the top off the defense, like you said. They really don't have a guy who can make like these contested catches across the middle, or they don't really have like a big body guy who's going to go up and grab something. So that's why kind of like with the Redskins the other day, we were talking about how I compared Antonio Ganey Golden to Allen Robinson a little bit. And I think at that third round pick where they selected uh, Mr. Pert from UCLA, I think that he would have almost been a perfect selection there because he does something that you don't, that nobody on your team does already, and he kind of fills a hole. Doesn't maybe fill it well. He still wouldn't be that number one receiver that they need, but he had some variance and some variety to that room that I think is desperately lacking right now. But other than that, I do think that their team is improved. I don't know if the results will be better because the schedule is tougher, but I think the quality of play will be much higher, if that makes sense.
I'd agree.
So from there, let's hop into defense. So Mike, I feel like we're just every team has they've got great D lines. What do you like about this Giants D line? Or what isn't there to like about this D line?
Yeah, not much. They're young. They got bodies. Those are some big boys you're putting in the middle. I think Dexter Lawrence is, I wouldn't say a breakout year because I thought his rookie season was fantastic. I think we're going to see a lot from him this year, especially. But I guess going outside of the D line, I think this defense right here looks like a sandwich with nothing in the middle. And they have a really strong front three. I think that secondary has a lot of potential. They're young and have some athletes, and then those four linebackers in the middle ain't hitting any balls for me. I think that's really where it's lacking, that mid depth there. And obviously with the space heaters, they might be able to create some opportunity, but I don't see much there.
No, I completely agree. And you think of what those space eaters are going to do is they're going to open up so many holes for these linebackers to fill, and they're going to keep offensive linemen off these linebackers. And you need freak athletes and just great instinctual players that can read those openings and make plays. And I think Blake Martinez is all right at that. I'll say I think Blake Martinez is pretty good, but I don't think he can be the best linebacker on your team. And right now he is by far, I would say. I think Fackrell and Lorenzo Carter, they were kind of both raw coming out of college. I think they have some potential, but I think they're more rotational pass rushers more than anything else. I really don't want those guys on the field for all three downs. And I do agree with their secondary. There's a lot of potential there, but I really don't know the fit between McKinney and Peppers, like I was saying. And then I like Bradbury and Baker as they're definitely not an elite combo, but it's not as bad as a lot of the other secondaries that we've seen in the league coming up, or that we are going to see in the league coming up this season, like the Jaguars or Raiders or teams like that. I think that those are two formidable guys. The only question is DeAndre Baker ready this year to go up against number one receivers? And in this division, there's some number one receivers. So I think that's going to be a huge question mark in terms of will this team win games? Because if you're just going to – I think they could upset a Philadelphia or the Cowboys on the right day if everything's hitting on all cylinders, but then all you need is an Amari Cooper touchdown or a CD Lamb touchdown or a Alshon Jeffrey touchdown to turn that, to take that all away. So can DeAndre Baker, can James Bradbury, or can Jabril Peppers and Xavier McKinney cover some of the tight ends in the division, some of the Zach Ertzes? I'm not really sure, but I guess we're going to find out when they play the games. So, Mike, what are some games that stand out to you?
What a transition there, Prevo. I just want to give you credit right there.
Man,
Some games, I think as you said it, I think this team should be able to stick with most teams. I don't think there's going to be too many blowout losses or blowout wins. I think they're kind of a team that should be competitive in most games, but I don't see winning a lot of them. So I think an interesting matchup to see kind of where they really fall in the league. I think Chicago. I think that's a pretty good matchup. I think that's a head-to-head. I think it'll make a lot of sense. Seeing what maybe Daniel Jones how he deals with pressure. Obviously, a solid defense, a solid front seven. I think that'll be a really interesting matchup to see how they play against Chicago. After that, I think there's a lot of winnable games here. I think obviously the Eagles is another matchup. I could see them swinging a game there. I think both games are going to be close. I think that's a very competitive group of games right there, and I think they match up very well. So I'd be interested to see both of those as well.
I agree with that. I just looking at it, I completely agree that the Bears game I think is going to be a real good measuring stick. I think we all kind of expect the Steelers to be a couple tiers above the Giants, but the Bears, they're kind of in that same region where it's like you really don't know if they're going to return to form and be that dominant defense and really come back in the NFC North. And I think the Giants, that's a solid test for the Bears, and the Bears are a solid test for the Giants. In terms of other games, I think obviously both Redskins ones are winnable. I mean, you can always catch a team like the Seahawks or Eagles when they're not, especially if they're not going to be healthy. I mean, last year, obviously, we saw Chris Carson get hurt. We saw all the Eagles injuries. I think depending on the circumstance, they could definitely take games from those teams. So, I mean, if I had to make like a early prediction, it would probably only be like maybe 5 or 6 games. But like I said, I do think that the quality will be a lot better. Because as much as I like to rag on Dave Gettleman, the roster is starting to come together. I think we can both agree with that.
Absolutely. I think a wide receiver like OBJ might be nice to see. But other than that, I start to see the vision. Obviously, there's still holes and there's some parts I question, but I can see the team. Like you can actually see progress and building blocks and foundation, which is something obviously after the OBJ trade and early in the offseason, last offseason, you really couldn't see.
No, and I mean, saying that OBJ thing, it makes me think of Landon Collins. You're kind of drafting Xavier McKinney his ceiling is to be Landon Collins. So it is almost like they need to kind of get back to where they were to even make progress, and I think they are starting to do that. They do need a number one receiver. They do need some of these young guys to take the next step, especially Daniel Jones. But I think this will be a really interesting year going forward for Giants fans. So other than that, I don't really have anything. What about you, Mike?
Nope, I think that's good.
Yeah, so make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. If you have any suggestions for who wants to do next, we're just going division by division, but if you comment and say that you want us to do the Kansas City Chiefs, guess what? We're doing the Chiefs next, baby. So just let us know, and that's all we got.
For sure. We mic'd up. Now we mic'd out.